Welcome to the C.G.H.S series. This is a series in which we will focus on collaboration, goals, habits, and strategies. The learning target for today is to teach how to plan with the big three in mind. The big three are focusing on learning targets, success criteria, and interventions. In this video, be on the lookout for how the collaboration planning tool is used and how the team adheres to the norms.
Okay, team, thank you so much for coming to today's collaborative planning session. Please, let's be mindful of our norms. So, we have our collaborative planning tool. And as outlined in this tool, the first thing that we're expected to do is discuss what we want our students to learn. So in doing that, we're delineating our unit, and we're also talking about our learning targets and our standards, as well as our goals. So, last week when we met, we were in Unit 1 of American Government, and I know that we're still in Unit 1. The literacy standard of focus for this week is L910 RHSS 5, which is analyze how a text uses structure to emphasize key points or advance an explanation or analysis. Now, since that standard covers so much, we have to break down our learning targets.
Okay, well, to me, it just seems like one of our learning targets definitely should be for them to first be able to identify the various types of text structure. They do that, which is a foundational skill. Once they show mastery of that, then we can move them on to actually analyzing the impacts of the different types of text structure. And then that will move them on beyond the level 1 skill.
And so as I was reading the standards, I wrote down a couple of notes, and I agree with Ms. Fraser-Worthy, but I also think our other learning targets should be knowing the relationship between the structure and communication of ideas. I believe if our students can understand the connection between those ideas, that they'll be able to move to the higher level skills of analysis.
Good point, and I'm making a note of that right now.
Okay.
So, our standards in this lesson, I think we really need to do things that's going to engage our students. And that's something that's going to make it relevant to them. And I say that because the type of students that we have, they're very quick to be disengaged and to go on to something else on their phones, or just thinking about something, or going to another class assignment. They have their laptops so they can go into different sites. And so to pull them in, we've got to have something that's going to pull them in, to reel them in the beginning, to make it relevant, something that's simple, that's going to engage them, because if our target is going to be 80%, I think we'll meet it. But if we don't do anything that's going to engage them, I don't think we're going to meet that target.
You're right. Okay, ladies, so listen. I have the perfect solution, or what I believe is the perfect solution.
What you have?
Check your email.
Okay.
I sent you a link.
You sent us something already.
Yes.
Okay.
You know me. I sent you a link to some visual text that I found that we can actually use to teach the different text structures. And so this way, we can not only incorporate technology effectively into our lessons, but we can also appeal to the different levels of multiple intelligences to make sure that we're meeting the needs of every level of learner. All right, so I'm just going to give you guys a minute to look at the videos.
What you think, Evans? I like these. They look like something that we can use, and it looks like they're perfect for teaching structure of text.
Yeah, I think they are relevant. And it's funny because especially the problem-solving solution commercial, they talked about edges, because you all know how our girls are about their edges.
Right.
But it's something that they can relate to.
Right.
It's something that they can relate to. So that's pretty much what our goal is. Getting something that they relate to that's going to engage them, and I think this will really engage them. It's probably going to bring out a couple of jokes.
But I said we go for it.
Right.
So I'm willing to use it.
Yes.
Good job.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a win.
Thanks for that tidbit.
Hey.
Okay.
All right, team. team. So the second part of our collaborative planning tool, it requires us to discuss data, assessments, and the use of instructional strategies.
Okay.
Okay, so last week when we met, I shared with you guys that out of the 40 students to whom I administered the pretest, 80% of them failed. So that was roughly 32 kids. Then when I administered a quiz last week on the same standard, 70% of my 40 students failed. That was about 28 kids. And this was after receiving a whole week of instruction on the standard. Evans, how did your kids do? Oh God, scratching it. Oh God.
I put my data up so I can talk, have a talking points. So 50% of my kids failed the pretest.
Okay.
The quiz that we had last week, 60% of my kids failed. And what I like to do with tests, I really like to look and break down each question to see how many kids got each question right or wrong so that I know what I need to revisit.
Right.
Okay. And I picked one question in particular, number 4. It was a DOK level 3 question.
Okay.
Right.
That was the question about the let me just get it right. The description structures used in a piece of a text.
Okay.
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 And so just the data alone tells me that our students need more practice.
They do.
They need more practice breaking down the components of different text structures. And so, Frazier, how did your kids do?
Well, you know, the pretest, none of our students did well, right? So 70% of my students failed the pretest. And then on the quiz, hold on, let me get my data. So on the quiz, though, 65% of my students actually passed.
Wow.
Good job.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
so I
incredible.
saw some improvement.
That's incredible, lady. I'm so not hating on you, but seriously, I want to know how you taught the standard. Because I know that all 3 of us now, we use the same approach.
Right.
We delivered the explicit instruction. We actually model for the students the think aloud strategy. I know that you did that, right, Evans? All 3 of us did it.
Right.
So what I'm trying to figure out is what you did differently.
Okay, so I did everything that you just said.
Okay.
But I added some more things that are a little bit more intentional.
Okay.
So for example, I did the think aloud strategy to show them how I read and understand text for our content.
Okay.
But then I used that cram literacy strategy that they gave us. So I was teaching them how to annotate and mark the text while we're going over text structure. So I had them identify some words to trigger them to know that things were changing. For example, words like consequently, whereas, to illustrate. Those are the kind of words I told them, okay, every time you see this, you're about to see a change. And so they would get their pens out or their markers, highlighters, whatever they had, and they would notice the differences in those texts. Then I had them go through their notebooks, through previous handouts that we've had or handouts from another class, just to see how many times can you find those words.
Wow.
And so my student who manages the word wall, she put all those words up on the word wall, and I made sure every day we were hitting those trigger words to kind of keep focusing on what to look out for. And so outside of the direct instruction that we all did, I guess that really did make a difference.
Wow. I really, really like that strategy.
I do too.
And so I feel that you've established what our success criteria should be. So how do we know that students can really master this literacy standard when they're able to create models of different text structures
Right.
using those key words and or phrases?
Right.
So that's going to be our success criteria.
Okay, yeah.
So I really like that strategy.
I really like it too, and I'm gonna use it this week coming up because I think it'll do some good. So I'll make some adjustments, you know, in my plans, you know, to incorporate what you did, and I think it's gonna do well for our students. Yeah.
So now I need your help. So like I said, 65% pass, right? But that means I still have 35% that I've got to go back and I've got to tweak it, you know, even
Right.
some more.
Right.
So I think I'm going to use the strategy that you use. Go back and look at my questions to see which questions did those 35% have in common that they missed.
Makes sense.
So that I can pull them and work on that particular question.
Excellent.
And also check the DOK level to make sure that It was probably a higher one, like you said, like a 3.
Mm-hmm.
Because of 1 they would have gotten. That was just identified.
Right.
But since we were asking them to analyze, then that would have been a 3. That's probably where they went wrong.
I'm sure it was. Okay, excellent. So I've made a note of all of this. Excellent.
All right, so you've made some notes, I've made some notes, so I can type up my portion and send it to you, and you can add to this so that we can go ahead on and upload that
Sounds good.
to our common planning document.
Okay.
All right.
All right, people. So the last portion of our collaborative planning tool that we've been using all along, it's the RTI portion.
Okay.
Okay, so we're really talking about what we're supposed to do when students aren't learning. And so in actuality, this is for interventions and the adjustments, the ongoing adjustments that we're going to make in order to increase student achievement.
Right.
All right, so this week, I am going to create flexible groups
Okay.
based on my data, and I'm going to purposely group students by ability to ensure that I provide the targeted support for all levels of learners. And so, for example, and I know that we've discussed these 2 students before, Tanisha Snow and Gary Underwood. So, like, they're 2 of my babies who would be at tier 3 because of their Lexile measures,
Right.
their previous EOC scores, as well as their current class performance. So for these students, I'm gonna make sure that I really work with them routinely, at least 3 times a week. Okay, how's that sound?
Well, I think that would be great
Uh-huh.
because before we can even put them in the MTSS program, we have to show that we've done some things in the classroom to try to close that gap.
Right,
And
right.
so we close it skill by skill. And so if they're tier 3 on this skill, that doesn't mean they're tier 3 for life. But right now, that's just where they're sitting. And maybe we can bring them down to tier 2
That's true.
if we can close that a little bit.
And so also for this, that's a good point. Also for this standard, I feel that pre-annotating the text, any text that I, decide to use with them, will be helpful to remove all those distracting words that really prevent them from being able to identify those signal words that reveal the different text structures that I want them to be able to really master.
That makes sense. Going through because I don't want them to get distracted with annotating and get distracted with trying to pick out the things. So if you can highlight some things in the text to point their attention to, then they can kind of model what you've been doing. What you think?
I think that I want to do stations.
Okay.
And when the kids come in, just have like the different stations of the different text structures.
Okay.
That's good.
You know.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That'd be a good
I
focus.
still want to group them, so I still am going to do the flexible grouping. But in those groups, they're going to rotate through those different stations.
Stations.
I like that.
I like
So,
that.
That's what I want to do.
I like that. I think for my 35%, I'm gonna do the annotated piece that you did, the pre-annotation, because I know those are also my lower level learners with their reading.
Right.
And I want to see your stations. I'm not committing to stations straight away, but I want
But
to
you
come
wanna come in
see.
and see.
I want to come in and see. So just let me know
So
what
that
day.
means it's going to be 2nd and 4th.
2nd and 4th.
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay.
so I'll
those
come
are the 2
by
classes that I'm
for your
teaching.
stations. But guys, don't forget. So all of our students have already tested, right? They've already got their MAP measurements.
Yeah.
So if we look at the learning continuum in MAP under reading,
Yeah.
then for those tier 3 students, we definitely can use that information because it tells us what they're ready to learn.
Exactly.
And
Sure.
text structure is on there. So even though we're the social studies team, we still do with reading. So we can use those reading MAP scores
Perfect.
to pull that together and help them master the standards.
So
Absolutely.
we need to revisit that. Very good. Well, thank you so much, ladies, for an awesome collaborative planning session. Let's remember all of the instructional strategies that we've committed to using
Okay.
in order to maximize learning. Also, the resources and the tools that we said that we're going to expose students to in an effort to help them master the standards, and the ongoing adjustments that we're going to make to our daily instruction in order to meet the needs of all levels of learners. I look forward to meeting with you guys again next week so that we can do it all over again.
Okay.
Our scores are going to be better.
Yeah.
I think
I
so.
feel it.
I think the meeting was a lot shorter because we had our data.
Yeah,
You already had the videos you wanted us to see. So the fact that you were able to get that to us and we came prepared And my phone was off this time. I think
That's a
Good
norm.
job. Good
Yes,
job,
You're
Fraser.
doing well with the
I'm
norm.
doing a whole lot better. So I think that
Exactly.
kind of helped us. I don't mind planning so much now that I can kind of get in, get out, and I feel like we want to make some strides with kids.
Excellent. Good job, team. Good job.
All right. Appreciate you guys.
All right.